What's going on, peeps? It's Wrath here, hanging out today, playing some Idle Heroes. I want to thank you guys so much for coming out with me today. If you liked the video, don't forget, smash that thumbs up button and show your support, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe as well. Alright guys, we're here today to do another hero analysis. This time it's going to be on Queen. Now, before we jump into anything, this is going to be a private server only analysis. So if you're playing the official servers or you downloaded it from Google Play or the App Store, this does not pertain to you. Just going to straight up say it, you don't have to watch it. Queen is not the same on the private server as she is on official. Official has updates right now that are changing units and such, and the private server is not following them. So some units in this game on private will function 100% different than units on official. Queen is one of those units. On official, she was buffed recently to have a much higher damage over time. 150% of her attack is bleed damage instead of 75. And she also, I think, has a 200% of her attack is damage on her counterattack. So the official Queen is much stronger than the private server Queen. But with that said, like always, we're going to go through the stats, the skills, kind of a build guide, and then enables and such like that. Where she's good, where she's bad, and move on. So first up, deep breath. Let's read. Let's do some reading. Stormblade. This is her active skill. All enemies take 132% of her attack as damage. They take 75% of her attack as bleed damage for 3 rounds. It's going to decrease their crit damage by 30% for 3 rounds, and also their crit chance by 25% for 3 rounds. That's not bad. On its face, it's not bad, especially when it comes to things like debuffing in PvP. When it comes to PvE, it's not nearly as good because the damage over time is low. The base damage drop is pretty low. The only thing you're really getting is crit damage and crit chance reduction on the enemy you're fighting, and in a lot of cases, that's not really a problem in PvE. It does work, however, pretty well in PvP, and in the Tower of Oblivion on certain stages where crit becomes an issue, but mostly it's a PvP kind of thing. When you're decreasing people's ability to nuke you down, it does help you not get nuked down, which is a nice thing. First passive here, Eye for an Eye. Basic attack is going to decrease the victim's crit chance by 20%. You're also going to gain 20% crit chance for 4 rounds, and you've got a 50% chance to increase your crit damage by 30% for 2 rounds. So her basic attack is another debuff for crit chance. So the first slot enemy is going to have almost no crit when you fight Queen. So if you're using like your Vesa in one slot, don't do that when you fight Queen. It will not work for you. But there you go. Decent debuffs, and it also buffs herself, giving her some extra crit chance and also the crit damage to hit a little bit harder, which isn't bad, but it's not a huge amount of damage in terms of like a 15-wave fight in PvP or PvE, as it is in the very short amount of waves you fight in a PvP match. So it definitely lends itself more to PvP than to PvE through all my testing, but it does work a little bit in both. Next passive here, Blade Fury, a passive attack boost with some crit damage and health. Not bad, can't argue with that. Just little passives. And the last one, obviously, we just read it, the counterattack. When she gets hit, she does a counterattack for 120% of her attack as damage. So there you go. There you go. There's her stuff. Now, as you can see, her stats are pretty high. Okay, at E3, she's rocking pretty beastie. 2.3 million health, almost 200,000 attack, which is pretty high attack. And that's with vanilla enables. That's the vanilla enabled Queen. As for the gearing guide, this stuff here doesn't really make a huge difference unless you obviously have 6-star Ranger gear, in which case you can swap pieces in and out or just run the full set and stuff like that. When it comes to your stone, I tried 2 main stones with Queen. First one was crit and crit, because I wanted to see if I could just scale her to be a monster with crit damage. She did okay, and it might work better in PvP, maybe. I didn't test it a bunch in PvP, but attack gave her much better damage versus bosses. I liked it a little bit more. It scaled better with her counterattack since it can't crit, and stuff like that. So I went attack on mine. I think I like it a little bit more personally. As for the artifact, it really depends on, one, where you're using Queen, and, well, artifacts in general vary massively. It depends on who you're fighting, what you're fighting, why you're fighting them. Tons of different reasons. You're fighting a boss that hits really hard, you want something that's going to reduce your damage. You're fighting a boss that has crowd control, you're going to want something that boosts your crowd control immunity. But if you're fighting a boss that's really weak, you're going to want a class-based artifact to do extra damage. When it comes to PvP, I still like the Magic Stone Sword probably the best for her, because it's going to give her reduced damage and control immunity, which is great, plus an attack boost, which is fantastic for a first slot unit, which is where I run my Queen right now. It's not bad. It works. But like I said, it depends on the situation you're in. Your artifact is going to change a lot. Okay, it just does. If you're setting artifacts on units and never touching them again, you're playing the game wrong, and it's probably setting you back. Artifacts get changed a lot. Generally speaking, they do. So there it is. If you want more damage, push for damage artifacts. Like class base will do great against bosses. Well, better against bosses. But like the Punisher Staff, the Antlers Cane, anything that's going to boost your damage, if that's what you're wanting, boost it. If you want survivability, you're going to run reduced damage artifacts, HP artifacts, stuff like that. Just depends on what you want. As for enables, because she's a private server queen, this means I don't have to stick it all to officials guidelines because she's not the same on official. This analysis will not carry over to official because she's already a different unit. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just make our queen for the first round here as heavy hitting as we can possibly get our queen to be. And that's going to be going all the way like so for spell control, getting that set up. So she's got mightiness for attack, crit after round 4, and then every attack boosting her skill damage. Generally speaking, those are the 3 strongest enables for maximum damage output. Generally speaking, most of the time. So that's what we're going to try here. I don't need the Magic Stone Sword, I don't believe, on her. The problem is, I guess we'll do it like this. We'll do it like that. We'll run the Aiden's Fury on her, and on Demon Hunter, I'm going to swap over to the Magic Stone Sword because she's going to be my catch-all right now for damage. That's going to be what's going to happen. So we're going to go here to the Marauder fights because this is where I like to start things out. We've got a Kamath Marauder here. If you guys don't know about Kamath, his basic attack and active skill hit backline only. So whoever's in the front line is pretty much safe from being crowd controlled and also 100% safe pretty much from taking damage unless your backline dies. In this situation, I'm trying to eke out the max amount of damage for Queen. I'm going to put her in the front line, kick Lutz out to the back, he'll probably die. Actually, what we could do, before we jump into that battle, how about we do this? We'll swap your enables up a little bit as well. We'll get rid of your mightiness, you don't need it, and we're going to throw on you Light Will. The reason I want Light Will on him is just so over time, if he does manage to survive a few rounds, his control immunity is going to go up, which means he might not get petrified. If he doesn't get petrified, he might live. Maybe. So it's a maybe. We'll see how it goes. But let's jump in. We'll put Queen back in the front, kick you to the back. Demon Hunter's probably going to tank most for us. She's got the reduced damage artifact on. Queen's pulling the Ranger artifact, so she should do the most damage versus Rangers. Keep in mind, my monster is not geared for PvE. This is mainly a PvP monster. The Ice Dude is. If I was going for max PvE damage, the 2 I would choose would be either the Wolf or the Griffin. The Griffin has done amazing damage for me on my other account. It's really solid on the private server right now, but the Wolf is not to be overlooked. It does do solid damage, and it's worth checking into. But for now, we're going to run a mainly PvP monster, so we're not going to do the best, but we'll do okay, I think. I hope so. We'll see how it goes. But this is going to be the test to see what Queen's going to do with pretty much everything you could give her for PvE. I mean, she's got all the best private server enables set on her. Not the monster I know, but she's got the class-based artifact. Hopefully the backline will survive long enough that we won't die. It looks like Demon Hunter's going to tank this just fine. Lutz got petrified there and almost killed him immediately. But that's the reason I put Light Will on him. As long as he's boosting that crowd control immunity, it'll be harder to kill him, and that's what I want. I want him to not to die. Queen's not hitting crazy hard yet. 4.6 mil basic. That's not bad, though. There's Lutz has died. He gave up the ghost. He is now a dead man. I is sorry, Lutz. No crits coming from Queen right now, which is a little bit weird. Usually I have better RNG with her critting. We'll have to run another battle after this just to try to get more crits involved. Still another no crit. What's going on, Queen? You're sucking a fat one for me, and I don't like it. But that was a really low hit. That was not good. Queen dropped about 58 million damage, but as you saw, she didn't really crit at all on her last big hits, and those are the ones you want to crit on, because if you don't crit, you might hit 5, 6 mil, but with a crit, you could be hitting 10, 11, 12, 15 million. So there's a big swing in damage that can happen based on if you or if you do not crit on those last hits. So we're going to run this one again. We're just going to next through it, though, instead of watching the whole battle out, and see if we can't get a little bit high. There we go, 167 million. Obviously something changed, and it was Queen. Queen went up pretty high there. 104 million damage, which you might say, Wrath, that's good. It's not bad. It isn't terrible, okay? But it's not bad. That's actually not bad. I'm not going to try to down her. That was pretty good. That was the best run I've had with Queen since I started. I came into this one really sketchy on her because all of my testing before, I'm going to run it one more time, was around 60 to 70 million. That's still another 90, so that's not bad. Pretty decent. Pretty decent coming out of the Queen monster there. So, PvE, that was the best showing I've had from Queen all season. I'm not going to lie to you guys. My earlier testing, I was pulling 60s, 70s, 80s sometimes, but that was 90 and 100. That's not terrible PvE damage. It's not God tier PvE damage, but it's also not bad. On official, you're not going to get those enables. Like, I guess we can do that real quick. Even though it doesn't extrapolate because they use, completely different skill sets on your Queen. I'll run one battle with Queen just running straight up vanilla official enables. Just see what kind of damage she hits without that extra skill damage and stuff stacking. 100 million damage, Queen dropping 52. Let's next that again, see what we end up with. Boop. And another 109 million with Queen at 53. So as you can see, running the vanilla enables is going to drop her damage by about half, down to about 50 million. In some cases, you have to run those for survivability. It's a thing. But remember, on official servers, your Queen is naturally stronger than this Queen is going to be. And you're probably running a monster that does more damage in PvE. And if you are, 53 million is going to be a very low ball for the official Queen. I would say official Queen's probably keeping more in line with the private server decked out Queen and capable of putting out 100 million-ish. That's all I guess. I don't have an E3 Queen on official, but I would say that's probably where she's pushing close to because she's much better on official than private. But still, on the private server, if you deck her out for PvE damage, you're topping out around 100 million, which isn't great, but it's also not, it's not terrible. That's decent mid-range damage. But Queen, for me, functioned better in PvP. I got that from her from the first time I used her. I was like, she works okay in PvE, yes. But I like her better when it comes to... do I want to do this? Let's do this. I liked her better in PvP, personally. So we're going to run... it doesn't really matter. We'll put something on you. Boop, 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 boop. Demon Hunter, we're going to swap you over to the Demon Bell. You need that energy artifact. And you, since you're my one slot, I want you to have that reduced damage for PvP battles. We'll leave the stock enables. We'll just leave that on her. They're not terrible for PvP. Extra HP and resilience isn't a terrible idea. It does boost you a little bit. There's other things you could do for your one slot, like say, you know what, I don't really need the extra health. Maybe I want to run, when people hit me, it breaks their crit. Maybe that's what I want to use, so I can stop some of those nukes from hitting me. And that's something you can run. We'll just run it like this. We'll run it like that. Why not? We'll do a couple arena battles, see if we can do some wins, but who knows. 1.3 million power, E3 Dragon Slayer, E3 Flame Strike. Mainly a cheese team, it looks like. I'm not super worried about this, but you never know. You never know. If Lutz doesn't catch those Flame Strikes with the stun, it can come back and bite you in the butt real hard, real fast. We'll see what happens. We'll see. I'm not super worried about the Dragon Slayer, but you never really know. We're already fully silenced. Was there a Vesa in that team that died already or something? Maybe. I don't know. But anyways, Flame Strike stunned, and she's the biggest threat on the team, so as long as she goes down, I'm not really worried about the rest of the battle. There she goes. She's dead. The rest of it's pretty much going to be an easy win. He's going to try to keep his Dragon Slayer alive through resilience and heal on attack. I don't think he's going to make it. I feel like the team will eventually just chip him to death, like so. He's going down. It's going to be a thing. Give up. You're dead. Okay, so that wasn't a super hard battle. I won't lie about it. And she still put out the highest damage on the team, though. That's one thing I like about Queen in the one slot, is she does counterattack a lot, and it does give you a lot of extra damage from her. And she does a pretty decent job of debuffing enemies with that crit steal with her active skill. It's actually pretty solid. This is a 1.6 mil. He's a little stronger. E3 KB. That's a no-go. When you're... that's definitely a no-go. That's not a good... He has 2 KBs. One's 10-star. That's not a good fight. That's a fight that would not go my way. I do not like fighting KB, especially in seasonal. If you're not built to counter him, you're probably not going to beat him. That's just the way it is. Valentino cannot be stunned, so that takes my Lutz kind of out of the equation. But Jara is a mage, so Lutz could probably get her. I don't know. You know what? Let's fight this E3. He has no monster on. The sad thing is he might still beat me without a monster. Let's see. That's the sad thing. If you're not geared against KB, he's a dangerous freaking monster. Because he stuns so much, his extra damage to stun enemies. He's just a dangerous guy to fight. I don't like fighting KBs. Like I said, there's a good chance I'll lose this fight in general. He has an E3 Shia. I didn't even see that. Doesn't have an E3 Shia anymore, but he did. He had one to start with. The problem, like I said, is, there you go. Like I said, I'm probably going to lose this fight. Maybe not, but probably. But I'm not gonna. Suck it. Suck it, noob. No monster and I beat you. I'm so good. I'm not. But like I said, even with no monster, KB just craps all over Queen. It's a good point to make, and I'm glad I did that. Even though I won, but wasn't the point. The idea is to show you Queen works great against your early scrap-together PvP teams. But when you start seeing units focused in PvP, like King Barton, Valentino, etc., she starts to fall off because when she gets crowd controlled, it's game over. She does no damage, no counterattacks, and she's very easy to shut down. Her best use in PvP is early on to decrease people that like cheese with E3 Vesas and try to crit everybody to death. Queen will counter that. She'll keep the Vesa from nuking you down and probably kill her off. But like I said, when you hit heavy PvP teams, she does not work very well. I almost lost a fight against a guy not even running a monster on his team because he had a decent PvP set. Not even a good one, a decent one. We can run another one, I guess. Why not? Let's go for 1.3. What are you rocking? E3 Valkyrie? That's Danger Town. Let's do it. Let's do it. We might lose, but I don't care. Not a big deal. We're just trying to run her in PvP a little bit and see what she can do. Even if we lose, the idea is Queen generally is going to run the highest damage for your team when you're running early and mid-game PvP. She does a good job at putting out damage. That crit boost she does for herself is great. The debuffing for the enemies is great. The counterattack is great. All of it kind of boosts her damage output, and it's nice. She does decent for it, but like I said, once you start hitting the portion of the game where you're facing people that actually have PvP teams built for actual PvP, your Queen's gonna fall off real hard once she starts getting, perma crowd controlled and just kind of dead. It happens. It happens. This guy's Valkyrie might put up a bit of a fight here, but with Heartwatcher stripping down, I think we'll be good. There we go. Yeah, she died. Absolutely killed her dead. E3 Valkyrie's no joke. As you can see, put out 8 million damage on their side. E3 Valkyrie's a good unit for PvP. But Queen here dropping 10 million damage. This guy does not have a PvP team. That is the reason I beat him. It's kind of a PvP team. Kind of. It's just not built. DAS mode can work. Demon Hunter E3 would have gave me some problems. E3 Michelle obviously would have been tough. But this is a very early PvP team. And you're going to crap all over them. Queen is going to do that for you. But when you get to the tough, the big leagues, the real PvP, she's not going to work as well, and she falls off. So that's pretty much all the testing we really need to do with Queen. You've seen her in PvE, you've seen her in PvP, and Queen is a solid hybrid hero, I would say. She's one of those units that's pretty good in PvE and also pretty good in PvP up to a point. And that's the important thing, is where is that point? Well, it's probably going to be closer to the late game, which means you have a huge swath of the game where Queen's going to do pretty good for your team. She's not a bad build. You could take Queen to 10-star and feed her out and probably be okay, but if you like to hybridize, if your goal in the game is not to be the god of PvE or the god of PvP, you can build hybridized teams that work decently in both, and Queen's one of those units that will fill that role. She will work both in PvP and in PvE, but she's not going to be a god of either. She's going to be pretty good at both. And that's not a bad thing. Of course, once you start developing toward the very end of the game, you decide, you know what? I don't need Queen anymore because I'm at the end. Go ahead and swap her out. Use the swap method to get an E3 KB or an E3 Cruise, something else out of her instead. But for the early to mid game, fantastic unit. Worth a build. I would say if you're running Ranger Tech, it's not a bad idea to build a Queen early on. And like I said, you can stop her wherever you want. If you just want to stop her at 6, you can. Stop her at 9, not a big deal. Feed her out or stop her at 10, or take her to E3. It's up to you. I personally would not build an E3 Queen, but I'm very PvE minded. I prefer PvE, and she doesn't quite god tier that role enough for me to invest in her. Totally up to you, of course, who you build. That's the way it is. If you like Queen, build the crap out of her and have fun. But my analysis, I would say, I would stop her at 10 personally. If I was more of a hybridized person and I kind of like PvP a little bit more, I would be more apt to E3 her. Since I'm not, 10 stars as far as I would take a queen. But like I said, everybody's different strokes for different folks. That's going to be it for the analysis, though. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please make sure, smash that thumbs up button and show your support. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe as well, and tell your friends about it, because that definitely helps me out a lot. And I will see you guys in the next one.